Anne, Tom und Stefan lassen sich bei der Firmengründung von firma.de helfen. Egal ob Einzelunternehmen, UG oder GmbH. In 48 Stunden Firma gründen. Jetzt auf firma.de.
Welcome to Venture TV live from Palo Alto, and I'm here with Scott Bonham. Scott, you're one of the most well-known American investors. Actually, you're Canadian, but you're very active in America. And we're going to talk about what it takes to become successful, especially for German or for European startups. Do you have to be here in Silicon Valley to become successful, or can you become successful at home? But first, to let the guys out there know who you are, where you've invested, tell us a bit more about yourself.
Well, I moved to the Valley. Hello, everybody in Germany. I moved to the Valley in 1989. I started working at a high-tech company like most people do when they come here. I worked at Silicon Graphics, a 3D graphics company, for a large number of years. And then moved into the investing world in the mid-90s. So I've been investing in high-tech companies since about 1996. I co-founded GGV Capital with 3 other guys in 2000. And our big idea in 2000 was that China was coming of age. Okay. This is back during the last bubble, so the dot-com bubble. Mm-hmm. And when we started our venture firm, we wanted to do something that was differentiated. Mm-hmm. Nobody was going to China back then, so we said, why not us?
And it was a big hit. Yeah, well, we come to that later, by the way. Yeah.
And our timing was very lucky, and I think we had some good execution as well. We did, our firm did invest in Alibaba early on.
There was a huge thing, and it shows that you have been pretty brave at the time, because what we hear when we travel through Silicon Valley, the investors tell us, well, as a startup from Europe, you better come here because we are closer to you, and us investing in Europe, we don't know because we don't know the law, we don't know how the system works over there. You didn't care about it. You invested in China, and that made you really successful with Alibaba. So you are one of the brave guys. It's not that common. Most investors invest within the radius of, I don't know, 10 miles, 20 miles, whatever that is, but very close. Do you think that that's a mistake of American investors, that they are not brave enough?
No, I don't. I mean, I think that it's very difficult. Investing is a big opportunity, and you have to figure out what works for you. So for us at the time, and I think it's true for at any point in time, there's, even in bubble times and in tough times, there's opportunities and ways to make money. You should be looking for what are the next thing. Yeah. Back in 2000, nobody was going to China. That seemed to be a big thing. Today, there's so much innovation happening here in Silicon Valley. You can't fault somebody for saying, I just want to focus on Silicon Valley. But back to your first question, that doesn't mean that you can't start a company, a great company, and not be in Silicon Valley. Mm-hmm. But what I would say is, it's really important to keep your mind and your eye on what's happening, some of the changes that are happening in Silicon Valley, because they will impact whatever you're doing, be it in Germany, China, Canada, Israel, other countries. So I think it's very important for entrepreneurs to start that company in Berlin or somewhere else in Germany, but be connected to Silicon Valley. And oftentimes it takes that connectivity takes a role of business development. It's really important to know what other companies in the ecosystem will impact you and your business, because you're all trying to disrupt old industries. That's where the big ideas come from. I would think that oftentimes people look for maybe software architects here, but have a big back-end office that are doing a lot of the coding back in your home country. So you can have advanced engineering teams here, again, rooms of engineers doing a lot of the more basic work back home. Business development, sales, marketing. So all these things you can have outposts here and be connected.
You see many entrepreneurs coming to Silicon Valley, coming to San Francisco, chasing their big dream because they heard about Google, they heard about Facebook, they heard about all the other companies that became successful over here. And that's a little bias in the system, as I always feel, because you just see the successful companies. So many people, whether it may be from India, from Germany, from wherever, coming here, most of them are failing. So that's what almost nobody talks about. But there are, I don't know, many percent failing, and just, do you have percentages of that?
Well, I mean, every VC firm has their own, you know, their own batting ratios. But yeah, so it's true. Not 100% of the people are successful. But the way we look at it in Silicon Valley is, it's not failure. We view it as experience.
Okay.
And so in other parts of the world, people would say, well, that entrepreneur tried something and he failed. We will never invest in that person again. The attitude here is, that entrepreneur tried something and failed, and that's called experience, and that's called tuition. He learned on someone else's nickel. Now, you know, some people just aren't cut out to be entrepreneurs, and maybe shouldn't be funded, or people should not invest in them again. Yeah. But in most cases, you know, what does it take to be a great entrepreneur? It just takes that dogged vision and that determination to go and make your dream happen. And you know, you have to look at, when we invest in entrepreneurs who haven't done so well the first time, we do try to figure out, what was it? Was it the person? Was it timing? You know, what were the things that caused that failure the first time? And is there a pattern there? Or is there something we shouldn't be invested? Is there a bigger reason that we should not invest here? Or did this person really just get the tuition and is ready to advance?
Better prepared now.
To his PhD or master's degree.
Yeah, right. So when you as an entrepreneur do the maths, and 1% of the startups become successful, maybe 99% not, then a wise decision would be, oh, well, it's pretty likely that I'm one of the 99%, so I rather don't come here because I'm going to fail anyway, which is pretty pessimistic, by the way, and maybe a bit German, that attitude. But then what do you think about the way of starting a company back home, wherever that might be, getting some traction there so that you become more attractive for American investors, that you don't only have the idea and the PowerPoint presentation, but you already got some traction, and then coming over because you know it is working, we just need more money to make it work better, and start then in Silicon Valley, not before.
That's a viable model. I mean, it's and there have been companies from Europe that have actually completely repotted their companies here.
Okay.
Or
the best way, or is it?
I'm not saying there's a best.
Okay.
There's no best. I mean, I think it's that's a dangerous thing to say. You must build a company this way. You need to be organic and authentic when you build your company, and. So you have to figure out what works for you, and that's the great thing about building a company. There's each time you do it, you're creating a new set of rules. Hopefully you learn like some really important lessons as you go along, and very often those lessons have to do with, how do you manage people? How do you build teams? How do you inspire the greatness in people? It's those basic leadership skills that you learn over time. The other thing I would say is that we were talking about the entrepreneur that comes here to do whatever he or she wants to do, but keep in mind that every company has one CEO and thousands of people who work for that company. So you don't have to be the entrepreneur. I mean, you can be entrepreneurial and come here and work for a startup and learn a lot, and then go back home and then start your own thing too. So you don't think of yourself as, I must start a company and therefore come here. It's to me, I look at it this way. There's a revolution going on here. There's a renaissance going on here. And by the way, if Michelangelo were alive today, he'd live here, because probably. This is Florence. And the best artists in the world went to Florence back during the Renaissance. But there were other cities where artists thrived and did well, but the best ones, if they had the means, they would come to Florence and learn from the masters. And it's the same here. The difference between now and back when Michelangelo's day is the world of communication is, the friction has been reduced.
Yeah,
so you
true.
can communicate, you can fly over here, you can Skype, you can, we have a lot of business tools so you can actually have global teams and communicate real time and build things truly globally. So it's, I think it's a very viable notion to be a German entrepreneur and be successful, to build $1 billion company. But I really do subscribe to the idea that you need to be connected in some way to Silicon Valley.
You've seen so many ideas, meanwhile, and the interesting thing for me is always, how do you find out the really good ideas? What is it? How do you decide it? Do you look at the numbers? Is it like 90% looking at the numbers, 5% gut feeling? What's your secret mixture of rating successful ideas?
When we started our firm, we focused on expansion stage. So there's different stages of investors as well. So there's early stage investors who really are good at seeing the future more so than anybody else. And what they're investing in is that kernel of an idea in that entrepreneur.
Okay.
And they're really looking at that passion, and they're saying, does this person have what it takes? Has this person seen success? Do they know what it looks like? And do I really buy into that idea? So that would be how an early stage investor looks at it. When we get involved, it's later on. So we have more metrics to look at.
Yeah.
So it's, we're taking less risk because a lot of companies haven't,
you haven't even seen them because they're not there anymore.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so for investing, there's a whole continuum. And now what we're seeing in the market is traditional public market investors are coming in and investing in private companies. And IPOs are being delayed. And so the whole nature of investing is changing. So there's a whole continuum of it. But we are in a world today, it's true, where valuations have crept up, and I think people are really willing to suspend more disbelief today than they were years in the past. That's partly driven by liquidity in the world. I mean, the cost of money is very low. And also, combined with the fact that we're in this world of exponential disruption, things really are changing at speeds that we haven't even imagined in the past. Companies like Uber have been built overnight almost, and they're taking down huge industries. So it's just an amazing time to be both an investor and an entrepreneur.
If you could give advice to young founders out there, because there's so many running around looking for advice and looking for the right way to do it, do you have a set of, let's say, 3 things that you would love to tell every entrepreneur, because you see over and over that people are doing it wrong? Is there a set of mistakes that you constantly see and that you say, don't do them?
Well, I think that one of the key things, I spent a lot of time in Canada advising people, and the #1 thing I tell Canadian entrepreneurs is to take more risk. And I think that people here in Silicon Valley tend to take more risk. It's just sort of in the DNA. Maybe it's partly in the water too, or in the wine. But I think people are willing here to lean forward, to try things that they wouldn't try elsewhere. And I think that is, in a way, a competitive advantage to Silicon Valley. It's that mindset. And it's holding back other countries and other areas of the world where people are a little more cautious, a little more risk averse. So my #1 thing to an entrepreneur in Germany would be to take more risk.
Take more risk. All right. So anything else you want to add?
I think we're good.
Probably 10 or 20 things that you could say, but that's like, if there's one thing that you should remember, take more risk. Scott, thanks for being here. Thanks for telling us all the good stuff, and good luck for you, and bye to Germany.
See you.